Now it's time to talk about a indie hidden gem, or AKA another independent project called Bullet Time, and this was created by Eddie Zadasar. If you may heard of this, because there were sort of rumblings in the indie scene, specifically the circuit, that pretty much go to basically festival for festival, showing off this pilot to finally dropping off in YouTube. But interesting enough, Eddie made this as a sort of short, not a indie pilot. It seems to me in the last second he decided to make it sort of a pilot-ish to see maybe get more people talking about it, watching about it, because it's not breaking numbers, but yet it's just so impressive and interesting. I can see this to be at least a one season type of show because how interesting it really is. But he also gets something super right, that the aesthetic, the vibe, it feels so much like the 90s. In fact, a lot of commenters under this pilot do point out this feels something between Ren and Stimpy and Rocket My Life. In a way, yeah, exactly how it feels like. Because believe it or not, if you compare those two shows, there's the basically the pinnacle of what 90s cartoon kind of was back then, but a more artistic taste. It's super hard to explain if you never was raised in the 90s. I think it's very artsy. That's the best way to describe it. In fact, it's sort of kind of like a very zen kind of lights, but almost wore down. Like you were watching sort of a VH tape someone watched over 100 times and they decided to upload it. It gives that sort of vibe of aesthetic. It just works so well. Now, before I continue on, my name is Richo. I like to talk about animation, not just animation through reviews, first impressions, cartoon theories, and sometimes, if I have some spare time, cartoon breaking news. Of course, you'll like how it's going, like to help my channel, put a like, comment, and subscribe. And basically, that's it. If not, that's fine. And now, let's talk about Bullet Time. Now, this has a story in a way. If you try to re-get grab the sort of 90s sort of storytelling or aesthetic, usually this type of cartoons don't really have a story. It has a very simplistic. This is the reason why a lot of people kind of feel this was sort of like Rocko My Life. Let me compare the bullshit two shows I said at the very beginning, Rocko and Ren and Stimpy. Believe it or not, those two shows are very different but have a very similar idea of vibe of the 90s. Ren and Stimpy is very kind of raw, on your face, unflinching, horrific kind of take of life. Almost kind of nihilistic, but yet we have two main characters stick together because they like each other. They have sort of kind of okay vibe. They understand they kind of know each other, but in the very end stick together. That's sort of Ren and Stimpy type of vibe. And Rocko My Life is sort of the opposite. It's sort of kind of like very chill, relaxed, single life that you struggle to get people. You start like you talk to people, it feels something kind of slow, almost slice of life, till it takes a left turn really hard, and you have this sort of weird aesthetic, almost raw, like a raw feeling that you can't turn away, but you get it. But a lot of dope jokes in between. This think of the two vibes mixed, you get Bullet Time. That's basically what they're trying to do. Now, story wise, I said it again, it's not that much to say. This way, sort of avoiding talking about, because in Bullet Time, the whole story is about Bullet waking up, or his friend waking him up, that trying to play a video game to his other friend who's a cat girl, trying to cheer him on and helping him beat the game. Doing all this time, very weird, trippy things sort of happen, especially about a drink called Fizz that sort of got spiked by his own best friend because he stole sort of video game points or jewels of it, and he kind of accidentally dropped it. It became more trippier, and that's the best way to describe it, because there's not much to say. And this is the interesting part. I think this is the reason why people like it. It's just so trippy vibe that I almost give me like a trigger in my back of my mind, the sort of memory that I used to do back in the 90s. Like in middle school, they had at middle school back in where Cartoon Network was sort of very high of its own power. They used to have different type of programmings. They have sort of a late short program. They actually give a lot of experimental shorts a showing. Most of them are basically indie festival shorts. Good chunk of them they're basically Canadian, and the Canadian shorts was very trippy. It reminded me so much of that sort of trippiness, that sort of vibe. Like you were tired out of work, sitting down and just put it on television. If you see this, it just sort of wakes you up a little bit, but give you sort of chill that you kind of makes you fall asleep. Even that some of it doesn't really make sense. And so I think that's the best way to describe it, because it is a fun little short to watch. I only recommend if you like it sort of 90s sort of aesthetic animation, but understanding has disgusting moments of it, but yet you're okay with it because you know that's sort of the genre, and that's basically it. But I have to at least complain one or two things. Is I kind of wish they introduced certain things a little better. If you don't know what I mean, like if you've seen the short, there was sort of a cat girl who reappears to help Bullet, but the only problem is how she was introduced was sort of weird, that it didn't let you fully understand how she came in. You know she's in the video game, you hear her voice, but how the camera kind of directs her where she's supposed to be feels sort of odd. I don't know if that was a choice, or is this they just didn't know how to introduce her. Because you watch any cartoon or any animation, usually they do two things: show the other character coming, or the character react to she or he or they reappears and say, oh my god, I didn't see you. And that's basically how you introduce a character. Something that is so subtle, you get it, so you don't get confused. And the only problem is they never fully do that. They never point it out or show you. It's almost like you have to have gamer logic. Like you used to see so much gaming, playing. You understand some of the kind of like inside out sort of tropes nowadays. They only do me one or two things, like the point or the jewels that one Bullet's friends grab for a power up in a way, but it's sort of a metaphor for drugs, in other words. But you get the idea. This whole thing is just trippy as balls. Yeah, I like about that. But the only problem is nobody really cares about it. Only a few cartoony reviewers. They could find me two more reviews besides mine. They all basically say sort of the same thing. They love it. They enjoy it. It's ecstatic. Yeah, I agree with them. But at the same time, give me a very strong point why the cartoon community is a little bit of a hypocrite, because people complain like why they keep kind of like regurgitating like Family Guy or South Park, because they sell. They're rip-offs, but they do sell. If you have something this beautiful, this well made, nobody really watch it. In fact, the only reason this was sort of made is because a very famous celebrity, writer, or director wanted it. He has so much good faith that it allowed him to do this sort of special nowadays. And that's the only reason this type of project were made. Or you're basically in the independent person who like this stuff, willing to do this, or where there is not really a lot of people were supporting, only a small hand of people. If you see the view count on my face right now, or you go to that Pacific channel, you could see it's not even past 100 or 100,000 views. But you get the idea. Hopefully it does blow up. Hopefully it does make sort of a splash in the cartoon community. But it's not. I'm not surprised. Even that, I hardly doubt that they make a sequel, because this is supposed to be part 1. I don't know if they want to be part 2, or this short supposed to be longer, they cut it in half to see how people react and drop the second part. I just honestly don't know, but I do recommend it, yes, because it has a very good aesthetic. In fact, the creator of this short does say he was sort of experimenting, want to make pixel art too, with this sort of kind of 2D animation, trippy, kind of like a like experiment, but he felt it is too safe. Because let's face it, doing this sort of art style, you have seen it. In fact, that's just not my words. That's 80s words. Like, it feels too safe because let's face it, a lot of projects online, they like to do reanimate sort of projects and use it sort of kind of 90s aesthetic style. Like, I see a lot of people doing live action shows, take a small part of it and make it sort of 2D, but reflect sort of the 90s sort of style of animation. You find few of them here or there, but yet I understand why he chose to thought about. Especially the video game section, he decided to make a sort of claymation, and that's it. That he thought I should put pixels. He sort of regretted it. No, just keep it a claymation to allow it to give it sort of a pop. In a way, yeah, it really does work that way. Because let's face it, it's sort of hard to get the aesthetic perfectly, even to allow it to really stand out. This is the reason why people are semi-talk about it, especially old fans of animation, because it feels he understood that aesthetic pretty well. Because usually 90s animation had to be super experimental, something that feels almost unhinged, but you feel it. Like, you understand the emotion. Think of it sort of a musical, how they some characters sing their emotions. 90s cartoons, they don't sing it, they show it. They feels uneasy, and that itself what they short trying to do. That sort of uneasy bullet trying to beat this game. His friends sort of kind of screwing around and messing with her sort of maybe friend online, a Catley, who trying to support him, but doing this sort of weird kind of sexual kind of thing out of pocket, but it kind of works because it's sort of the vibe of it. It's something that's sort of super hard to do it, because you do too much or to lean on one thing too much, it feels something completely different. And they do a excellent job to balance everything. But I have to say, I do wish they have another minute, at least a minute and a half, to introduce one and two jokes better, or introduce the Catley a little better, and also his friend, because there's another character who's a TV who is there to wake him up, but just sort of messing with him. But every time they show him and the cat girl, they just don't leave enough time to see what they're doing or what they're trying to do. Almost introduce the idea properly, and that's sort of the most minor complaint I could give. The rest of it is pretty well. It's something I admit I'm having fun with it, but at the same time, being warned, it is a little nasty because it's kind of neat to be nasty. That's sort of the idea of that aesthetic of that specific time period style. But all of that, that's all I can say. I had a great time watching this. Do I recommend it? Yes. Just one thing, don't be surprised they don't make a sequel, because it's obvious it's not really that popular. But all of that, I got nothing else to say. Just thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and have a wonderful day. Bye.